Hey Wichita, this is your Mayor Brandon Whipple. We have a special episode where I will be delivering the state of the city. We will be putting 2020 in context and talking about opportunities that we have to move Wichita forward in the upcoming year. Hi, I'm Mayor Brandon Whipple, and when I reflect on my first year as mayor, I have to admit it's been a strange year. It was definitely not what I expected. The weekend before I took office, one of our largest employers announced layoffs that could have cost Wichita thousands of jobs. A few months later, Wichita began the battle against the worst pandemic the world has seen in over a lifetime. Throughout the struggles with the economy and with COVID-19, we continued the discussion with community leaders in the wake of the George Floyd killing to re-examine community-centered policing, integrated social services, and the role that we, as electeds, play in promoting a more just and a more fair society. The story of Wichita in 2020 is not an easy one. It's a story of perseverance, of community, of finding opportunities and silver linings in the face of difficult situations. It's a story that Wichitans, and really Kansans, know well. And as Wichita is the heart of Kansas, it is no wonder we exemplify our state motto, "To the stars through difficulty." We went into the budget season needing to cut millions of dollars in an already lean budget. We had to cut programs and prioritize our core services as a city while keeping our first responder budgets whole. We got into the budget not with an axe, but with a scalpel. Because unlike recessions, it wasn't just about making the numbers add up, but also about public safety and responding to the needs that the pandemic presented. We took the advice of public health experts and we closed down in-person classes, replacing them with online classes. Our libraries pivoted, closing in-person centers while creating a drive-through so that parents and students could continue to get those resources they needed while still being safe. While personal gyms and group fitness classes closed, our Parks and Recreation Department created outdoor open-air activities with a COVID-safe approach. We took the tough vote of closing our public pools and splash pads, but found a silver lining by speeding up the aquatics revitalization plan. When we open back up this summer, the pools, splash pads, and new splash parks will be better than they have ever been. Overall, we cut $11 million with an additional $17 million in cuts projected for 2021. But we entered this year in the black, thanks to unexpected savings and our fiscally conservative approach. At City Hall, our employees took on an all-hands-on-deck approach, with city staff taking on tasks and doing extra work to help us get through while we suffered a hiring freeze. Our city employees, the folks who show up every single day to serve our community because the duty of the city must go on, are heroes. We would not have done as well as a city through this crisis if it wasn't for the people who show up every day and work for our city. So for those of you who are city employees, thank you. In response to rising crime, we added more money to our law enforcement community-centered policing strategy, and today have more resources and more officers than at any time in our city's history. Our police academy graduated more female officers than ever before, while enrolling one of the most diverse classes in history. Chief Ramsey is making good on his commitment to ensure our officers reflect the diversity of our community in which they serve. In the wake of the George Floyd murder, when other communities were divided and politicians drew lines in the sand in order to pick a side to score the cheapest of political points, Wichita did something different. Wichita brought everyone to the table and talked policy and reform that builds on the past work of our community activists and our police chief. We adopted the 8 Can't Wait policies, which are shown to lower dangerous confrontations to protect both officers and the citizens they serve. We continued our Integrated Service Response Pilot Program, the ICT-1, so that those experiencing a mental health crisis can receive help from a mental health professional, freeing our officers to go fight crime. Wichita became the first city outside of Minnesota to, in some areas, replace headlight fix-it tickets that disproportionately hurt lower-income folks with vouchers that pay for those lights to be fixed instead. Our focus is on safety and service for all of Wichita. After attending events and protests, it was clear that we needed to do a better job in bringing people to the table, particularly those who have historically been left out. With help from Wichita State University, and thanks to the leaders in our community, we crafted an ordinance that established the first standing council on diversity, inclusion, and civil rights to advise the City Council on policy and ensure that the values of our great city remain open and accepting. Wichita can do more than just attack crime when it happens. We can also attack the variables that create crime by investing in social services. Because of the outstanding work of our housing director, Sally Stang, we added $10 million of federal funding to support social services that fight against the variables that cause the conditions for crime. When the pandemic threatened the resources of our nonprofit sector, Director Stang worked as a partner to help those organizations receive these funds so they could continue to serve Wichitans. Instead of paying for one-time hotel rooms, we used one-time federal funds to actually buy a hotel, providing a long-term asset to help our neighbors experiencing homelessness, not just today, but also in the future. As domestic violence was on the rise throughout our country, Wichita responded with $800,000 for our Wichita Family Crisis Center so they can buy a much-needed facility upgrade. Last year, the City of Wichita put more money towards social services and homeless prevention programs than the past 5 years combined. We set a record, which would have stood for years if it wasn't for the second meeting of 2021, which in a single vote, we put $12.5 million of federal money into programs designed to help folks economically impacted by the COVID pandemic. We want to keep people in their homes. We're stronger as a community when moms and dads don't have to drain their savings accounts or rack up high-interest credit card bills. Times are tough, and not everyone can work from home. Too many parents, like my wife Chelsea, had to cut their hours in half, put their careers on hold, and stay home to help their kids learn online. For those economically impacted by the pandemic, we've created programs to help with rent, to help with utilities, and even offer internet hotspots so that we can help close that digital divide. We offer free bus rides for veterans throughout the summer, and we also offered free bus rides for everyone on Saturdays. We know that our way through this is to get back to the Wichita culture of loving thy neighbor and asking, what can I do to help? Nationally, 1 out of 5 small businesses closed. Wichita's small business community is not immune to these struggles, and when it became clear that our small businesses were taking the brunt of the economic impact from COVID-19, we appointed an advisory council of small business owners so we can keep focused on their needs. This collaboration has led to innovative policies such as the open air ICT permit that lets shops and restaurants offer services in their parking lots and also on sidewalks. We also got feedback about how masks were helping the service sector bounce back as people became more confident and empowered to get out and shop locally and even go on a date night. The City of Wichita has talked about the importance of diversifying our economy for years. And in 2020, we made leaps in this effort by completely overhauling our economic incentive programs to apply more to small businesses as well as to our major employers. Wichita has to be innovative. People tell me that Wichita could be the next Austin, Texas, or we could be the Silicon Valley of the Plains. But innovation doesn't mean copying what another city is doing or trying to mimic another city. Innovation means embracing our core city identity and building on top of what we already do well. Wichita is home to the greatest advanced manufacturing in the world, but we know this. We just don't talk about it. We let our work and our actions speak for itself. When Spirit was not building the MAX, they took on a contract with a national manufacturer, Viair, to build advanced ventilators to help replace the national stockpile. Our machinists and our supply chain business experts took the industry standard of 50 ventilators a week, and we started producing over 500 advanced ventilators a day. In our spare time, Wichita, we shamed the entire ventilator industry and overnight became not just the air capital of the world, but the advanced ventilator capital of the world. The entrepreneurial spirit in Wichita has been around as long as the founding of our city 151 years ago. This spirit has given birth to household names such as Pizza Hut, Coleman, and even White Castle. That spirit lives on in the ever-changing technology industry, in which we're working with our startup community while also attracting international companies to our city. Our latest tech company to call Wichita home is the internet security firm NovaCoast. NovaCoast is headquarters in California, with locations in England and Delaware and now Wichita. Their CEO is quoted as saying, "I have never found a place like Wichita." And that's because technology fits so well with the entrepreneurial spirit here in Wichita, and that we expect and applaud risk-taking. And if you fail, we say fail fast so you can get up and try again. Innovation is building upon the foundations set by those before us. In some cases, it's literal foundations. Thanks to the forward-thinking folks in our private sector who look towards old, unused buildings in our downtown core and not just wonder what used to be, but dream of what they may become. Wichita will soon be home to a new medical school housed in those buildings. This medical school will not only bring synergy and economic activity to our core, but also help supply much-needed doctors and medical professionals throughout our state. Many towns throughout our nation depend on institutions of higher education as their primary economic engine, and we're putting one of those right in the middle of downtown. We have got so much accomplished this year that frankly, I don't have time to list them all. From keeping our minor league baseball team to attracting $21 million in federal funds to finally fix the North Junction intersection. We have more investments in our street repairs, federal grants to replenish our aquabeds, federal funds to help us build a new transit center. We're aggressive with opportunities to bring our federal tax money back to Wichita because every dollar spent on infrastructure turns around 2 to 3 times in our local economy, creating a ripple effect of opportunity. Wichita is moving forward, and as your mayor, I wake up every single morning and think, what more can I do to help us move forward? But at night, when I leave the office, and I go home to my wife Chelsea and my 3 sons, AJ, Tristan, and Julian, I think about the 578 people we've lost due to COVID, and the loved ones who go home to an empty house, or walk past an empty bedroom. I think about the parents who have to explain to their children, many might be too young to even understand, that grandma is no longer with us in this life. Wichita is winning the fight against COVID, but it doesn't come without sacrifice. I'm amazed with the stories of our medical community and how they responded to this crisis. I'm told that this year alone, our medical professionals have witnessed 1/3 more death than in average years. And still, they put themselves at risk by showing up every day to save lives. They are the heroes of this pandemic, the ones who spoke truth to power when politicians didn't want to hear that we needed a mask mandate to stop the spread, the ones that in some cases sat next to a stranger as they passed away from COVID so they wouldn't have to leave this life alone. I can't imagine what day-to-day was like for our medical community. Covering extra shifts while COVID workers quarantined, serving on the front line, fighting the worst pandemic in over 100 years. I can never know what that was like for you, but please know that you have our most sincere gratitude. Wichita's future is bright, not because of a mayor or because of the city council or really any institution. Wichita's future is bright because we're home to the best people in the world. Thank you to my fellow Wichitans who, while tested in 2020, has showed through their actions, their grit, their perseverance, and compassion what our city has been known for the past 151 years. It is such an honor to be your mayor. Thank you.
Well, Mayor, so we just presented our State of the City. The first time you presented that was at Botanica. Could you talk a little bit about that event? We limited who was in attendance to just medical professionals. Could you kind of speak to that?
Yeah, for sure. We had our State of the City at Botanica outside really because it was the safest thing to do as we are still recovering from COVID. We wanted to invite the medical community for 2 reasons. One, we knew they were vaccinated and probably felt more comfortable coming out, joining us for the State of the City. And really the second reason is frankly, they are the heroes of our city this last year. They are the ones who helped us get through this pandemic by taking it head on. The ones who really couldn't just go isolate and work from home, they were the ones out there saving lives. So we wanted to show some gratitude by inviting them out as a medical community to our State of the City and thanking them, which we did with a proclamation and also other gestures from city council members to let them know they have our gratitude.
You know, we are coming around the corner of the pandemic. I know we both have been
Let's hope
fully
so.
vaccinated. I know.
Yes.
I was really excited to get my second one. So what will our priorities be moving forward?
So I think that what we have to do in Wichita to move beyond the pandemic is to use this as an opportunity to further what is working, to further the stuff that we've been working on in policy, but also in economic recovery, and to pivot as well into what are some of the services that we should continue that is a holdover from the pandemic. For example, we pivoted very well into going from like in-person classes to online classes for folks throughout our community who are interested in learning something new. Is there a market to continue some of these online classes? Is there a market or a need for folks to extend some of the programs to close that digital divide where during the pandemic we had resources to help give hotspots for folks who might not be able to afford high-speed internet so they can have access to high-speed internet? Should we utilize other methods to keep programs like that going? So I think that coming out of the pandemic, the economy is going to be a little different. I don't think Zoom's going away anytime soon. So what do we do to make, I guess, appropriate adjustments, not just to our services, but also in our expectations of how the economy is going to move forward with some of this disruptor technology introduced?
Last week, you and the council had your first budget retreat. The budget season is going to kick off here before we know it. And you talked about some of the changes we made during the pandemic and some of the priorities moving forward. What are some of the things you'd like to see in this year's budget session?
So really, I'm looking for, if I could have it my way. And of course, the council, we all work together. But if I had it my way, I would look towards opportunities to take some of the one-time money that we are getting from the federal government to help us bounce back through the Recovery Act and work with our friends over at the county, let's say, because they're also getting a big chunk of one-time money to go towards an investment or investments within our community to create programs that provide opportunity. So is there stuff that we could do as a city, but we'd get more bang for our buck if we invited our county friends to the table because it also helps us as a regional economy. So I think that looking for ways to not just spend one-time money or just to pay back what we've lost over the last year with the revenues, but also looking for those strategic investments. And we made some last year, when instead of spending money on let's say hotel rooms for folks who were experiencing homelessness, we went ahead and bought a hotel. And in doing that, we are using the money appropriately. But after this crisis, we now have this asset we can use to further provide these services. So are there other opportunities for either programmatic opportunities or opportunities when it comes to taking advantage of pooling our resources for those type of, I guess, investments that pay dividends in the future?
Last year, we went into the budget season facing a shortfall. Do you think we'll experience the same issues this year?
I hope not. So we went in looking at the budget. We thought we had to trim the budget way down. And for those who watched the State of the City, I referenced this. And we came out actually with more money than anticipated because we approached the budget cycle as if we were in this alone. Mm-hmm. We can't count on what happens in Washington. We have to be responsible for ourselves. And frankly, some of the resources that came from Washington helped us backfill some of the budget. And having more of a conservative outlook on our budget also made it so we didn't have to do deficit spending. We'd have to take money from other accounts. So when it comes to moving forward, I think that we should still stick to those type of principles. Like what is the most responsible way to utilize resources and lean towards more conservative estimates. And in doing so, hopefully next year we'll be surprised where we won't have a deficit. Hopefully we'll have a surplus like we did this year.
Yeah. Some other things that are coming up, we're supposed to be voting on the ethics policy in early May. What do you hope to see come out of that?
I'm really excited about this policy. I think that most cities, when they reach a certain size, take a look at their ethics policy, and it's a symbol, and they update it. It's a symbol that to the outside world that we are open for business. That if you want to come and invest in the city of Wichita, you have a ethical partner that you will be working with. That you don't have to worry about any type of shenanigans you might get in smaller cities. So Wichita, we are kind of trying to break through that top 50 as a city, right? And this is a natural progression of that. And the goal is to use this policy to attack problems that could come up, problems that maybe should be addressed, that if we have problems here, and also problems of perception, where folks who might not have faith in the transparency or even the accountability of how we do business now can have a little more confidence that we have brought things into, into a particular lane. So what I want to see with this is that the council comes together and we focus on the actual problem, and how we solve the problem. And I think that in for older discussions, we focus a little bit on the politics and a little bit on the people presenting ideas. And I'm as guilty as anyone when it comes to, conflicting with other people's personalities, right? But I think we're at a point where we are ready to have a strong piece of legislation or ordinance to move us forward that will actually be focused on solving problems and be that opener to the rest of the world, that Wichita, we are worth investing in. We have checks and balances put in place because, frankly, as electeds, with great responsibility comes great accountability. So this is an opportunity for us to add that accountability, not just for us, but future elected officials as well.
I know ethics was one thing you referenced in your campaign when you ran for mayor. You're about a year and a half in. We've got ethics almost wrapped up. Like you said in your State of the City video, it's 2020. It was pretty unprecedented. It wasn't what you expected. What do you hope to accomplish with the rest of your first term?
So I think we have to still look towards what is the values of the city of Wichita and us as a community, and how do we express those values in a way in which we will be attracting new talent, in a way in which businesses will want to invest in Wichita, where we can be more attractive economically, and again for really for our workforce as well. We lose a lot of young folks. They're actually one of our top exports is people under the age of 35 who have opportunity. Sadly, a lot of them take opportunity outside of the city. So when it comes to looking, forward, we of course have kind of our rock solid economic policy that we adjust, and it's more technical. Well, the less technical stuff, I think, is what we have to look at, which is truly listening to folks who have opportunity to leave but choose to stay, or were here for a summer and then chose to leave. What other values are you looking for in a city? Are you leaving really because we don't have a great public bus system yet? Or are you leaving because of something else? Is there other types of, lifestyles or lifestyle of walking to and from work, more of an urban lifestyle versus more of a rural lifestyle? Is there something else that's outside our control that is drawing people in or out, and how do we respond, to that information?
And you have 3 adorable, cute little boys.
They're okay, yes.
Obviously, they're not old enough to make that decision whether to stay in Wichita or not, but what do you hope our community looks like when it's time for them to make that decision? So
really what I want, and I talk about this sometimes, and I wind up going off script when I talk about this, because usually I try to be the mayor, right? And focus on mayor-type I guess, conversation. But I drift off because I'm really a dad first. And frankly, I think that when I think about the future of Wichita, what is the future of our city worth to me if it's a city that my kids can't actually reach their goals? I want my kids to be able to have wings and go wherever they feel called to go, and to do whatever they feel called to do, but also, they might choose to have roots and stay here as well. So my goal when we think about the future of Wichita, is if whatever, I guess, niche or profession my kids feel is their calling, I want them to have an option to stay more local to accomplish that. Where I grew up, in a very small town in New Hampshire, there isn't a lot of economic opportunity. When I moved to Wichita, back in 2003, I think, this place just felt like winning the lottery because it was big enough where there was enough opportunity where you can kind of find your niche. I wanted to be a social worker then, and we had an incredible nonprofit community. If my son wants to be a medical doctor, what we do today might mean that they can go to med school right here in Wichita. If my son wants to be an artist, what we do today to help grow the art community will provide them that opportunity. And I got another son who might be a professional kickboxer. I don't know. He's my youngest one. He's always wrestling. Well, we actually have a community for that too. So what can we do today, I guess, to develop what Wichita's already, what our assets already are?
And that's great. Well, thank you. That's all we have time for today.
Thanks for tuning in to What's Up Wichita. As always, you can send us a written question or even a video by sending it to social@wichita.gov. I strive to be as open and accessible as possible, so please feel free to reach out either through email or through social media. Thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you next time.